All right, we're back. So I think we've all, as human beings, have had different versions of decent, subpar, and maybe great interactions with chatbots. But unfortunately, a lot of the time, it's not the best experience. And I know, Steve, in particular, there's a lot of opportunity to improve those experiences in part by harnessing these incredible brains that are LLMs. But Tati, I wonder if we start with you. How would you describe? I say chatbot. What do you say? And where do you think some of the gaps are that need to be closed to make those chatbots, a better part of a retailer's customer experience?
I mean, from my experience is mostly on the lower end of the chatbot experience, whether it was driving some of these myself or working with others or as a consumer. They're not great most of the time. They are clunky. They don't have the right data. The recommendations you get, or at least they were not great. The data you got was not the recommendations that you got was not necessarily the greatest one, or they didn't really solve your problem. So I found myself so many times typing representative, which still, was the best. And in some cases they'll be like, what do you mean? Are you looking to speak to a customer service? Yes,
I can't help you. I
you
can't
know,
help you. That
the
sorry.
equivalent of yelling at the phone, representative. So
I'm going nuts.
but knowing that the technology today, I'd love to hear Steve talk about this, because knowing that the technology today not only makes these online e-commerce and online channel experiences so much better, but they also have the potential to aid the brick and mortar, to aid the in-person experience and make that human in front of you a bit superhuman with that knowledge, with that backing. I'd love to hear a little bit about what's different now than it was even 2 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we've all had the chatbot experience that you have had. And, I think to me, it's just a combination of using tools that are just generic, right? And not making it authentic to the user. So the way we look at things now is, how do we take a particular domain and the knowledge within that domain? So in this case, it could be a specific retailer that, let's say, is in the electronic space, right? The amount of information that's available for that retailer, how they do business, their consumer information, that needs to be kind of plugged into the brain. And we can now do that with tools that are out there like LangChain and other technologies that have really advanced in this space. So basically, you're building a domain specific business brain for any domain, and in this case, a retailer. And then you are able to tap into that brain with the conversational AI aspects that actually exist today. So through that, you get a more authentic conversation, a more direct conversation, something that basically allows the answer to be more relevant to you and more relevant to the question that you asked. And then I think the other piece of this is that AI has advanced a bit. Everything still needs to be trained, but the mechanisms of training those brains have advanced. The tool sets to train those brains and the ability to pump information into those data sets has advanced. So I think all of that has really allowed us to this great point in time where we can actually create an authentic user experience for the end user.
I love that. And I think one of the things that I get excited about, and I've shared this with both of you, is that I look forward to that future where I can have, we can call it whatever we want, but an agentic, kind of sidekick at my favorite retailers, for example, that get to know me, right? And get to know what I'm into and whether I am or am not logged in, and so on and so forth. They just start to anticipate my needs, help advise me as I'm, investing my time and energy in something like skiing, as we just talked about previously. Steve, I know, that's a passion of yours, and something that you've seen some really interesting stuff in terms of helping folks kid out their families and think through the calibration of all of this. I don't know. There's just something inside of all of that that feels like you're pulling a ton of friction out of a customer experience, and in exchange, you get extreme customer loyalty. So to me, I don't know, not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but come on, retailers, like, get it together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody wants to go to a brick and mortar store or a site, right, an e-commerce site, and basically have a very quick and easy experience. So part of that is knowing you as a consumer and what you want, but also the concept of guided selling is growing these days. So the ability within an e-commerce site to basically walk a user through a guided selling experience. What do I want? Ask it some questions, have that conversation, but then allow the system, the AI, to basically push the product based on those answers. That's there. Every retailer can do it, and it's surprising to me that not more retailers are going down that route. But whether or not it's in store with brick and mortar, sort of that storytelling aspect, or online with the e-commerce guided selling, all of that tech is there for sure.
Right on. Well, as always, Steve, Tati, appreciate the time, and we'll pick it up again sometime soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Alec.
Thank you.
See ya.